My name is David Daniel Ball, and these are the headlines for Tuesday, the 24th of March, 2009. Communications failure, security watched bikie brawl brewing. Sydney struck by another drive-by shooting. US stocks skyrocket on Obama's bank toxic asset plan. Rudd's popularity at near record levels. Mass brawl at Melbourne hotspot sparks investigation. Bligh determined to pick her own cabinet. Williams recovering after heart surgery. And in comments, bikies prove how dodgy Sydney Airport security is. If there's any doubt about the inadequacy of Sydney Airport security, it was put to bed as bikies bashed a man to death in front of shocked passengers. Chris Smith says it's time for a change now. ANZ bank mongrels kill great Aussie institution. Australians have always known the banks are bastards, but it's been proven once and for all by the ANZ killing off Marrickville Anzac Memorial Club, Alan Jones explains. And from Piers Akerman, bikie madmen not afraid of politicians riding spin cycles. McKeelty, you have to be kidding. A day after a man was bashed to death at Sydney's Qantas domestic terminal, you say that security at the airport is not bad. Piers, I don't think it is Mick Keelty's fault that the political masses have stripped him bare. We still need him to do the best job he can, and if we allow him to get rolled, as eventually we must, the replacement will be an ALP stooge. This issue is close to my heart, as I was reading recently when making inquiry into the Newling investigation of police failure in Cabramatta in the 90s. The issue faced by some whistleblowers who were set upon by their government are similar to mine. I note that the possibility of Hamidur Rahman having been murdered has been acknowledged by the government as being something they didn't feel they needed to investigate. Given the gravity of the case, was the allegation contained in the letter duly investigated? Had the reply, I'm advised that a chief investigator of the department's Employment Performance and Conduct Directorate conducted an extensive phone interview with a former teacher on the 19th of April 2007, and that Minister Della Bosca later responded to representations by the former teacher's local member, providing details of a contact officer should the former teacher wish to discuss matters further. I'm advised that the knowledge by staff at the school of the former student's allergy to peanuts was a matter extensively examined by the coronial inquiry. The findings of the senior deputy state coroner were published on the 9th of September 2005. What that reply glossed over was that there was no investigation following the grave allegations, the phone call having preceded them. Also, the referral officer was one named as being a personal threat to the whistleblower, so my job minister and my local member threatened me and have bragged about it to the Senate. But it isn't solely my issue that I am discussing. The collapse of the 5T gang was not a result of government intervention or community policing, but more closely related to a change of heart with gang leaders when some became converts to Christianity, thanks to the work of local churches sometimes working in fear of the police. Corruption is not the fault of the police. I believe it is directly relatable to ALP corruption, which can be publicly trailed back to the 30s in the Great Depression. I note Hickey's and Marr's ludicrous essay into the issue of liberal corruption in the 70s and note how poorly they examined the ALP of the time through blame and innuendo of the liberals. No policeman enters the force wanting to be corrupt. It is sad to see how honest and hard-working individuals such as Keelty can be compromised by their political masters. White guys can't bump. In advance of the meeting Barack Obama, Kevin Rudd practices his fist bump. Therese doesn't seem to be buying it. A more experienced duo demonstrates the correct method. We've won! George Monbiot concedes from Tim Blair, quietly in public, loudly in private. Climate scientists everywhere are saying the same thing. It's over. Hittin' ain't beaten. First, we had TV executive whose network aimed to improve his public image of Muslims, only for him to end up on murder charges after decapitating his wife. And now the holy guy chosen by the Muslim Alliance of North America to be their spokesman on the issue is alleged to be a wife-beater himself. 140 bytes are all fake, nobody on Twitter is real. In an update and other tech developments, Barack Obama's willful teleprompter has turned against its boss. India on the move. There are millions liberated. The Nano might be the most significant car since the Ford's Model T. An update, on the other hand, Saab is screwed. And we have the Chuckler-in-Chief, a view rarely heard over the past 8 years. In a way, it's heartening to hear how our politicians stumble over words, mangle syntax, and make inappropriate jokes. It shows politicians are human too. Obama redeems Bush, although it's difficult to picture Bush being such a giggle pants. Troll Squad, prepare to be watched. The federal government will begin trolling blog sites as part of a new media monitoring strategy, with official documents singling out a website critical of the communications minister Stephen Conroy. Shadowlands, for one, welcome our new Ruddian overlords. In an update, things are worse in Iran, as you'd expect. They were right all along. The irreducible starting points of the SLA's agenda was the belief that the justice system treated blacks differently from whites, a point proved by the court treatment of a rich white woman and former SLA member Sarah Jane Olson. Risk removed, a new report from Melbourne now fast running out of water for its booming population. The demonstrators unfurled a banner saying no risky dams in meter-high letters. They were detained and thrown out of the country, but thrown out of the wrong country, alas. How to do something now there's nothing. From Andrew Bolt, to fight the recession, the Rudd government recklessly defined doing something as spending billions, and it attacked the opposition as the party of doing nothing for worrying about the debt. But now the government will be doing nothing itself as it runs out of cash. How will it now explain why we need both more spending and less? Too dangerous to police in a society in which the lawful are endlessly policed, the lawless are given room to kill. The wild brawl between bikies at Sydney Airport, in which a man was bludgeoned to death, had started with pushing and shoving 15 minutes earlier in view of security officers, raising serious questions over the adequacy of airport security. Troops out of Afghanistan. Kevin Rudd deserves to suffer the kind of opportunist campaign against his deployment in Afghanistan that he so cynically waged against Mr. Howard in Iraq. Kevin Obama, it's Barack Obama's own 2020 summit, where gathering the best and brightest is more politically useful than actually listening to them. Obama lost again without his teleprompter. The Bryce government speaks. Quentin Bryce, far from staying out of politics as Governor General, has convinced local reporters covering her African tour that she is the government. Visiting Australian Governor General Quentin Bryce on Sunday said that her government is eager to support efforts of improving maternal health in Zambia. Rudd won't pass on Chinese whispers. The Manchurian candidate charges is making Kevin Rudd wary of revealing too much. With Kevin Rudd about to visit Washington for his first meeting with President Barack Obama, who better to bend the Prime Minister's ear than the propaganda chief of the Chinese Communist Party, Li Chang'un. But to be fair, some journalists were indeed told of Rudd's meeting with China's propaganda chief in time to give Rudd exposure in a market that counted most. Yet China's state-owned media was ushered into the lodge and Mr. Rudd was splashed across the Chinese press with footage of his talks on the nation's main television station, CCTV. As a result, hundreds of millions of Chinese knew more about Rudd's diplomatic activities than did his own countrymen. Obama laughing all the way to the empty bank. He does know what he's doing, right? Repeat, but with more love, the ABC decided that this headline is too negative. Virtually impossible to avoid recession, Rudd says. The rewrite is so much better for some. Rudd says jobs are priority as recession looms. Green greed. When an industry depends on government subsidies to survive, the corrupt sniff an opportunity. No wonder renewable energy has attracted the interest of the mafia in Italy and of sharp businessmen in Britain. Then build your own house. Is this about faith or about power? Dozens of Islamic students plan to protest today to demand that a dedicated Muslim prayer room replace an existing multi-faith centre at Melbourne's Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. Can't share, won't share, demanding more than their share. Is this the authentic face of young Muslims in Australia? Letting loose the dangerous, Victorian Police Headquarters sent its officers to an email to watch out for a prisoner now released into an unsuspecting community, likely to return to the Richmond area and come under police notice. The Office of Corrections have stated that the name deleted had been released but is a danger to the community. His danger flags included psychiatric conditions, suicide risk, and significant violence. His extensive criminal history includes aggravated burglaries, armed robberies, assault police, drug offenses, and serious assaults, including slashing the throat of a prison officer with a concealed razor blade. So why is he out if he's so dangerous, and who will pay for his freedom? UN in orbit. How mad is the United Nations, the great hope of the world, mad enough now to take advice on world peace from actors experienced in battling pretend aliens? Why Muslims are being targeted? Khadija Abdul-Kahar, a Muslim convert and a journalist once known as Beverly Gisbrecht, asks a question on her own Islam in Spun website. Kahar now answers that question in this video for her captors.